Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. This will be a short one because I wanted to share my thoughts on the character Captain Durag. I've been seeing people talk about this character all over my For You page and how so many black people did not like the character at all. They felt it was a bad stereotype and insulting to the black American community. A lot of that anger was directed towards Disney, and many people assumed this had to be created by some ignorant white person or a white team who didn't understand the culture. However, the character was actually created by a black man named Martellus Bennett, and he even made an Instagram post explaining his perspective and why he created the character the way he did, which I'll show on the screen for you to see. Go ahead and pause to read it if you want. As you can see, that changes the conversation a little bit, doesn't it? Because now, the narrative of this is just racist white executives pushing stereotypes no longer works. So I guess the real question is, why did so many people, who I presume to be black Americans, hate the idea of Captain Durag so much? Well, I feel like diving into this topic exposes a very uncomfortable truth that many black Americans may not want to face or address head on. On one hand, many people argued that the imagery Captain Durag gives off is a bad stereotype of black Americans, mainly because he wears a durag. They see the durag and immediately associate it with negative portrayals that have historically been used to mock or belittle black people. I understand that reaction, but here's where it gets interesting. A lot of black Americans wear durags in public, have openly expressed that the durag is part of their culture, part of their identity, part of their history. It's been reclaimed as something cultural, something stylish, something tied to hair care and heritage.
So some people have called this unprofessional, called this ghetto, have called this intimidating. But what you're actually looking at is black history. Back in the 1700s and 1800s, during slavery, black people wrapped their hair to protect themselves from heat, from sweat, from working long days in the fields, but also to maintain dignity in the face of dehumanization. You see, in 1786, the teaming law was passed in Louisiana. That law forced black women to cover their hair in public. This was an effort to try to make them seem less attractive, less powerful, less seen. But black people flipped it and turned oppression into style and into a message. By the 1920s, during the Harlem Renaissance, tying your hair down became part of the routine. It kept press-outs and waves intact. And in the 1930s, during the Great Depression, barbershops sold them as tie-downs. And no, they weren't even called durags yet. That name didn't show up in print until the 1960s. Speaking of the 60s, in the 60s and in the 70s, durags supported afros, waves, and a number of different hairstyles. It was also part of a movement too. And then by the 90s, the durag was even more mainstream. It was featured in album covers, red carpets, fashion. But of course came the backlash. Bans in schools, jobs, even the NFL. But as of 2025, 27 state legislatures have passed the Crown Act to stop hair discrimination. And yes, that includes this durag. So no, this isn't just for waves. It's not just for style. It's protection, it's culture, it's necessary. How's that for some black history?
Yet, when a black man creates a character based on his connection to that very same durag, suddenly it's a degrading stereotype. And not to mention, I have to acknowledge that there were a lot of black Americans who did not find an issue with the character, and in fact found it funny. And speaking of interesting, for as much as I honestly couldn't care less about Captain Durag personally, whether people like it or not, I think this situation forces us to confront something deeper. We have to acknowledge that black people are capable of creating, endorsing, and perpetuating the very same stereotypes we claim to hate when they come from outside the community. Let me be clear. Many black and non-black creators produce powerful, nuanced, and positive representations for our race. That absolutely exists, and I'll share some at the end of the video. But we also need to come to terms with the fact that there are black creatives who will utilize negative stereotypes in their storytelling, whether intentionally, unintentionally, for shock value, or sometimes for profit. Representation alone does not guarantee the quality of said representation. And we also have to accept the fact that there are black people who hate being black and will likely project their internalized hatred for their race in their fiction, as there are black people who love being black, and you can see it reflected in their works as well. We need to accept that not every black creator is automatically going to create stories that uplift or paint us in the best light. Just like any other group of people, there are good writers and there are bad writers. There are thoughtful storytellers and there are careless ones. Having a black lead, a black writer, or a black-centered story does not automatically mean the final product is going to be empowering or beneficial for the broader community. And this is where I might anger some people. but I've noticed that sometimes the harshest stereotypes about black Americans in mainstream media don't come from outsiders, they come from within. And big studios know this. They can hire or platform certain creators whose work leans into those stereotypes, and if backlash happens, they can simply point and say, well, a black creator made it. It becomes a shield. The accountability gets deflected. That doesn't mean every controversial project is some grand conspiracy, but it does mean we have to be honest about how the industry works and how optics are used. At the end of the day, if you don't like the representation you're seeing, go support creators who align with the vision you want. Invest your time, your money, and your attention into stories that reflect the depth and diversity of black experiences you want to see. And at the same time, we need to hold black creators accountable the same way we would anyone else. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say. As I mentioned earlier, I'll leave some recommendations for you to check out. See if any of them resonate with what you want to see. You'll find a link to each work of fiction mentioned in the descriptions below. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.